Chapter 1 Wounds That Cut Deep. Naruto was smiling as him and his perverted master walked up the road toward the village gates as the sun was just falling below the horizon. "All right, finally, coming home, I can't wait," Naruto said with excitement. "Geez, it's like you've never been away from the leaf for an extended period of time." Jiraiya chuckles. "Hey, we have been gone a year and a half. That is the longest I've ever been away from the village," Naruto said. "Yeah, but we were supposed to be gone for 3 years," Jiraiya replied. "And we would have been if I hadn't dragged you away from those whorehouses and hot springs," Naruto replied. "Hey, that was essential intelligence gathering," Jiraiya defended. "For your books, but not our mission of finding out about the Akatsuki," Naruto said. "So because of you, my newest book will be delayed," Jiraiya said. "But my training was quickened, and we got the intel we needed in half the time. Now you can work on those dirty books of yours all you want," Naruto replied as Jiraiya got a perverted grin on his face. "And you'll have more time with Bachan," he teased. "What you talking about?" Jiraiya asked defensively. "Oh, don't give me that shit. I know you like her. I heard you saying her name in your sleep when we shared rooms," Naruto replied, and it wasn't in the perverted way either, it was in a caring way. "Oh, fine, you caught me on that. What of it? Besides, don't you have the same problem with that pink-haired girl?" Jiraiya shot back as Naruto's head dropped in shame like I thought. "All right, fine, you got me there," Naruto replied. "So it's true what they say about a student and master being similar," Jiraiya said with a grin. "Maybe a little," Naruto sighed. "And maybe more than you think," Jiraiya chuckled. "No, I'm not a pervert," Naruto shot back, knowing that is what he was implying. "Oh really? Then that super extra perverted jutsu isn't your creation then?" Jiraiya asked, getting Naruto to slump in defeat. "You know I really hate you sometimes," Naruto sighed, getting Jiraiya to laugh as they entered the gate. "You just know how to suck the good mood right out of me." "It's something I take pride in," Jiraiya said as he looked at the two front desk clerks. "Ah, Jiraiya-sama, Naruto wasn't expecting you for another year or so," Kotetsu said with a smile. "Yeah, I bet a little pink kunoichi will be happy to have her teammate back," Izumo said teasingly, getting Naruto's excitement back. "Seriously guys, I finally got him to calm down," Jiraiya sighed. "Hey, can you keep it on the down low? I'm back. I want it to be a surprise," Naruto asked. "As long as you report directly to the Hokage, I guess we can keep you guys off the books," Izumo replied. "Thanks guys," Naruto said with a smile. Naruto and Jiraiya made their way to the Hokage's office where she was pouring herself a drink. Naruto and Jiraiya merely slipped in through the window. "Damned, who do you think you are coming in through the—" Tsunade began, but then looked to see the two people she wasn't expecting. "Jiraiya, Naruto, what you two doing here?" "Well, seems the kid is a fast learner when it comes to training," Jiraiya said. "I've taught him just about everything I could without getting into the really high-end stuff," Jiraiya said. "Yep, can even do the Rasengan one-handed now," Naruto said, proud of himself. "Is that all you taught him?" Tsunade said, looking at Jiraiya disappointed. "What, no? That is just the thing he is most proud of, getting it down to one hand, and his new variations of the jutsu. I taught him plenty," Jiraiya said defensively. "Yeah, he taught me his INV," Naruto began, but had his mouth covered really quickly by Jiraiya. "Hey, you want her to kill the both of us? That is not a jutsu you go bragging about," Jiraiya said as Naruto got a look of realization on his face at what the old perv used it for, and knew Tsunade would jump to conclusion and assume he used it for that as well and kill the both of them. "What was that?" Tsunade questioned. "Oh, he just taught me a lot on evasive maneuvers like how to tail someone and how to lose a tail more easily. You know, the whole espionage thing," Naruto covered. "Then why did you try to stop him from saying that?" Tsunade asked. "Well, I was supposed to be teaching him fighting techniques, not spycraft. Didn't want you blowing up on me for going off subject," Jiraiya covered. "Honestly, I am just happy you didn't turn him into a pervert," Tsunade said. "No, still working on that," Jiraiya said with a grin, giving Tsunade a tick mark above her eye. "Well, is there anything you need, Bachan? I was hoping to get some ramen and surprise Sakura-chan before it got too late," Naruto said. "Well, I guess we can test you tomorrow to see how you've progressed," Tsunade replied. "Thanks," Naruto said with a smile and headed out the door. "All right, so what about the seal? Is it holding?" Tsunade asked the white-haired Sannin, who just sighed and looked back at her. Naruto walked down the street with a grin on his face, heading toward his favorite ramen stand when he passed by the window of the barbecue shop and saw a pink-haired kunoichi. I can go to Ichiraku anytime. I'll show up and surprise Sakura here and now. Naruto thought as he grinned to himself and entered the shop and spotted Sakura along with Ino, and he started to head over to their table. As he drew nearer to them, he began to hear their conversation. "So how's the dating scene going?" came Ino's voice, getting Naruto to stop and remember something Jiraiya had once told him. Always gather as much information on a target before you make a move, whether it be in battle or love. Know who or what you're dealing with before you decide to attack or fall back and reassess the situation, came the old pervert's voice as he slid into a booth close enough to hear, but still far enough away he wasn't easily seen. "You know Sasuke-kun is the only one for me." Sakura shot back at her friend. This gave Naruto a mixed feeling of joy and sadness, knowing she wasn't seeing anyone, but also her feeling toward the team hadn't changed. "Yeah, but since he isn't here, doesn't mean you can't play the field a bit to find out what else is out there. Just cause I want Sasuke as well doesn't mean I won't see what else I could have. Maybe there is someone better out there I just haven't met yet," Ino replied. "Well, you keep looking, I'll stick with Sasuke-kun," Sakura said. "Well, you're no fun, just play along a little." Ino said. "How about Kiba?" "No, the smell of dog is just too much," Sakura replied, holding her nose. "And don't even say Shino, I really hate bugs." "Then Shikamaru?" Ino asked. "Too lazy," Sakura replied. "Choji?" Ino asked. "Eats too much, I ain't good at cooking as it is," Sakura replied. "Geez, why are girls so cruel like this?" Naruto asks himself. At least us guys say it to each other's faces, have a good fight, and best friends again the next day. "MHMHO, I know," Ino said with a grin. "What about Naruto?" At this, Naruto stated to listen real hard. "What, no way, never," Sakura said with a blush. "Oh, I see a blush there. You do like him, don't you?" Ino said. "What, no?" Sakura said, gaining control of herself again. "What, why not? He may be a knucklehead, but even though he wasn't all that pretty on the eyes, he was still young. I can't wait to see what he is like when he comes back from his training trip," Ino says, licking her lips. "There is something I never told anyone before about Naruto," Sakura said as her head dropped a bit, getting both Ino and Naruto to listen in. "My parents never liked the fact I was on his team." "What? Why is that?" Ino asked. "They said he was a monster," Sakura said, getting Naruto's eyes got a look of pain, knowing what she was talking about. "What, why would they say that?" Ino asked. "I don't know, but of course I didn't listen, because if I asked to be switched, I would be taken away from Sasuke-kun, and I hadn't seen anything to warrant that fear," Sakura said, getting Naruto to let out a small breath. "Until the Land of Waves mission," Sakura said. "What happened then?" Ino asked. "In the report I said I didn't see what happened in the ice mirrors that Haku formed, but that was a lie," Sakura said, getting Naruto's fear to grow. "I felt a wave of what I can only describe as pure evil resonate from it. To this day, I will never forget. It struck fear to my very core. Then I saw Naruto covered in that orange chakra we saw him in when he fought Neji in the Chunin exams," she explained. "Did he hurt you or Sasuke?" Ino asked. "No, he only beat the hell out of Haku, but even to this day, I have had a slight fear of him. I don't know, maybe he is just a monster like my parents told me," Sakura said. At this, Naruto nearly ran out of the restaurant without the two kunoichi noticing. Just then, Sakura felt a slap across her face, and she looked up and saw Ino staring at her hard with anger. "How dare you talk about your teammate like that?" Ino almost yelled. "What?" Sakura said. "Has he done anything to you for you to call him that?" Ino asked. "Because all I have ever seen him do for you is care for you no matter how badly you treated him." "Ino?" Sakura stuttered. "Sorry, I just get upset when people are mean to others or call them something that they don't really deserve." Ino sighed. "This coming from the gossip queen?" Sakura said. "I just pass along what I've heard, not my own opinions," Ino said, "and I may rip on my friends a bit, but never call them a monster, especially when they haven't done anything to warrant it." Ino said. "Right, sorry, it's just that's something I have never gotten out of my mind about him," Sakura said. "Well, if you aren't going to date him when he gets back, mind if I do?" Ino asked teasingly, trying to lighten the mood. Naruto didn't know how far he had run, but when he stopped, he found himself in Team 7's old training field. Why would she think that about me?" Naruto asked himself as tears poured down his face. She fears you, came a voice. What, who's there? Naruto called out. She is just like the rest of the village, she fears your power. The voice came again. No, she just doesn't understand. Naruto replied. What doesn't she understand? That you have a demon sealed inside you that could destroy the entire village? The voice asked. Yeah, if I just explain it to her, she won't be afraid anymore. Naruto said, getting a slight bit of happiness. Or she will reject you completely, like the rest of the village. The voice said again. No, she won't do that. Naruto argued. Oh really, she already thinks of you as a monster. Demon isn't too far away from that. The voice came back. As Naruto heard this, he began to realize the voice was right, and orange chakra began to seep out of him, forming the one-tailed fox cloak. Wait, that's you, isn't it, Fox? Naruto said with realization. So what if it is? Doesn't make it any less true. If she finds out the truth, she will hate and fear you just like everyone else. Kyuubi said. No, she won't, Naruto began. What cares for you? You heard her with your own ears. She is scared of you and will never care for you like you do for her. I'm just trying to keep you from getting hurt even more. Kyuubi said. No, you're just trying to get out again. Naruto said. Maybe, but doesn't make what I said a lie. Kyuubi repeated as a second tail began to form, and an image of Sakura appeared in Naruto's head of her seeing him like this. Oh my god, you are a monster, like my parents said I should have listened to them. The image said as fear went through her eyes. No, Sakura, please let me explain. Naruto began as he reached for her, and a third tail formed. No, get away from me. She cried as a fourth tail emerged and his skin began to peel away. Please, Sakura, don't leave me, please. Naruto begged as he grabbed her hand. No, leave me alone, someone help the demon, has me help, the demon is here. She cried as a fifth tail emerged, and Sakura's image faded and Naruto was left alone again in the five-tailed state and going further. Yes, give into the despair and the loneliness, let me out. The Kyuubi yelled as all of a sudden chains ripped out of Naruto's body and anchored him to the ground. What, no, impossible. The Kyuubi screamed as the demonic energy was drained from Naruto's body, and he reverted to normal and slumped to the ground on his knees. However, his hair changed from bright blonde to blood red, fading to blonde tips. Damn, Kyuubi, how dare you try to use Sakura against me like that? Naruto said. But you know I'm right. She is your weakness, especially now. Kyuubi said. He knew the fox was right. She always was his weakness, and to get such an emotional reaction that almost released the Kyuubi on the village again, he knew he had to do something about it. Just then a squad of masked Anbu along with Tsunade and Jiraiya landed in the field to find Naruto chained to the ground. Naruto looked around at all the Anbu, and something hit him. Flashback. Alright, who can tell me what the Anbu are? Irika asked his class. The best ninja in the village under the direct control of the Hokage. Sakura said excitedly, trying to impress Sasuke with her knowledge. Yes, but why are they the best? Irika asked. Because they have full control over themselves' mind, body, and emotions. They control it all, not showing any weakness in any aspect. Sasuke said flatly. Yes, they have control over all these, and even the hardest one, emotion. If you can control that, you can control the other two easily. Irika said. End flashback. At remembering that, and looking at the Anbu, he knew what he had to do. Who chained him up like this? Tsunade demanded. No one, Lady Hokage. Came one of the Anbu, he was like this when we got here. What? Tsunade asked. They're right, this is the Uzumaki Kekkai Jinkai, Jiraiya said, while inspecting the chain, getting both Naruto and Tsunade's attention. What, I didn't know the Uzumaki had a Kekkai Jinkai. Tsunade said. It is very rare, and mostly only the women get it. Only been a few documented cases of a male getting it. It is chains, as you see, that are very useful in sealing. It seems they have drained him of the demonic chakra that we had felt. Jiraiya said as he walked up to Naruto, try retracting them back into your body? Naruto felt the chains in his body and focused on pulling them into himself, and they began to retract into him. Once they were retracted, he stood up and walked over to Tsunade. Bachan, I formally request to be put into the Anbu. Naruto said, looking up at her with now demonic slit red eyes, in complete seriousness and resolve that she could tell meant he wasn't going to take no for an answer. Chapter 2, Peepers and Demons. It was late afternoon as Sakura walked back from the main gate on one of her normal duties as Tsunade's apprentice. Why do I have to run these simple errands? Isn't this why she has a secretary? She sighed to herself. Hey, just be happy she isn't pounding you into the ground with her strength training inner said. Yeah, I guess you're right. It's been 3 years since I started training with her, and it's been a grueling time since I mastered the basics of being a medic. Ever since then, it's been body hardening and strength training. She sighed again as she approached the entry desk and took the day's sign-in sheet. As she walked into the Hokage's office, she saw her master taking another drink. She set the papers on the desk and looked at her master. You know, master, you shouldn't be drinking on the job. Hey, drinking helps reduce stress. Stress causes fatigue. Fatigue causes you to miss stuff. So 1 or 2 drinks actually help. Tsunade says with a smile. You say drinks and mean bottles? Sakura asked as she pulled 2 bottles of sake out of the garbage can. Never said the measurements of those drinks, did I? Tsunade says with a grin. Whatever, Shirsho. I brought today's login sheet. Is there anything else you need? Sakura asked. No, you can have the rest of today off. Relax a bit. Tsunade said, waving her off. Thank you, Shirsho. Sakura said with a bow and walked out the door. Sakura walked to her best friend's flower shop to see the ponytailed blonde. Hey, Ino, she said as she walked through the door. Oh, hi, Sakura, what you up to today? Ino asked with a smile. Oh, not much, just got done with Lady Tsunade, and she gave me the rest of the day off. Sakura said. All right, that's great, let's go to the hot springs. Ino shouted with a smile. What? Don't you have to work here? Sakura asked. Oh, we're almost closed for the day, and Mom can handle the last hour. Ino said as she took off her apron and hung it up, then shouted to the back of the store, Hey, Mom, I'm heading out with Sakura. All right, you two have fun, came her mom's voice, and she dragged Sakura out of the shop and down the road. Sakura laid back and soaked in the hot springs. All right, Ino, you were right. This is just what I needed. See, never doubt me, all right, Ino said with a grin. Got it. She sighed as she sunk down to her chin in the hot water. So then how have things been going with you, Sakura? Ino asked, getting the pinkette to sit up a bit so she could talk. You know, good, considering Lady Tsunade has been running me into the dirt with strength training on top of the medical training. Sakura sighed. Well, that's all well and good, but I was more interested in your personal life. Like, found someone you like yet? Ino teased. I told you Sasuke-kun is the only one for me, Sakura said. And like I have told you before, just because he is the one doesn't mean you can't play the field a bit, Ino said with a mischievous grin. If so, then who do you like? Sakura said, trying to turn the tables. I asked first. Ino wagged her finger at her, getting Sakura to sigh. Anyway, how long has it been since Naruto left? She asked, looking for a reaction. About 3 years now. Why do you ask? Sakura asked innocently. Well, I'm just wondering what he will be like when he gets back. He was always a child, but 3 years of hard training with a Sannin hopefully has matured him, Ino said. I have been training with one for just as long, Sakura said. Yeah, but you were able to go home and get away from it from time to time. He was never able to go home to get away from it, Ino said. Well, guess that's true, Sakura admitted. And I can't wait to see what he looks like when he gets back, Ino said with a sly grin, looking at her friend. What do you mean? Sakura asked, a bit confused. Oh, don't tell me you haven't thought about it, Ino asked. Thought about what? Sakura replied, still confused. About how hot he must be by now. Seriously, when we were younger, he may not have been much to look at. But with his training mindset and his stamina, he must be working out that body harder than ever, and the muscles must be forming in nicely, Ino said with a bit drool as she thinks about it. What? Sakura asks in shock as an image of Naruto with no shirt on showing off a hard chest of muscles and six-pack into her mind. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about, come to mama. Inner drooled over the image as Sakura shook her head to get it out of her mind. I'm surrounded by perverts, Sakura said to herself when she remembered something. Besides, he has been with Lord Jiraiya. Granted, he is an awesome ninja and Sannin, but he is also a self-anointed super pervert. The old saying goes, the student and master aren't so different, or something like that, Sakura says with a wave of her hand. Then that would make you a drunk who has no luck? Ino shot back, getting Sakura to slump in defeat. All right, maybe that philosophy doesn't hold true. Sakura sighs, getting Ino to grin in victory. Besides, would it be so bad if he came back a little perverted? With a body as I image the knowledge of the greatest adult book writer and the stamina that has no end, I don't see any downsides there. Ino says with a far-off look in her eyes. Great, I got a pervert for a best friend. Sakura sighs. I'm just kidding. Ino says with a giggle. Besides, he should be coming home soon anyway, and you'll see I'm wrong. Yeah, I hope so. Sakura replies. No, you don't. You hope she is right on the money. Well, I do anyway. Ino replies with a perverted grin. Shut it, Ino. Sakura sighs as she slides further into the water. After a few minutes, she feels the water ripple as Ino gets out. She looks over to see Ino getting out of the water and wrapping herself in a towel, but instead of going to the exit, she starts heading toward the fence. Huh, Ino, where are you going? Sakura asked. Thought I saw something. Ino says as she gets to the fence and squats down and starts to inspect the fence. Just then she begins to hear giggling coming from the fence. Damn, Ino, what are you doing over there? Sakura said as she got up and wrapped herself in a towel, then headed over to her friend. Ino shushed her friend as Sakura saw a little bit of blood dripping from her nose. Then pointed at the hole in the fence. I think I found the perfect man. She whispers as Sakura squats down and looks through the hole. As she looks through the hole, all she can see is the back of a man's head and his arms lying across the edge of the hot springs. He had blood-red hair fading into blonde tips. She then notices an Anbu tattoo on his right bicep. As she looks him over, she begins to feel a blush spread across her face. Just then he started to stand up and she got a glimpse at his toned backside and his well-developed back muscles. Then her eyes made their way up to his shoulders, and to her horror, she saw the word demon carved into his back from shoulder to shoulder. The man reached for his towel, and just as he wrapped it around his waist, she barely caught a glimpse of something heading straight at her. She jumped back from the hole just as the tip of a kunai plugged it up. Geez, that was close, Sakura said in shock as she stares at the point of the kunai that was deep enough through the hole it could have poked out her eye. Well, guess guys don't like being peeked on any more than we do, Ino said, but it was totally worth it to see that. Guess I know why they do it now, she said with a grin. Can you be any more perverted? Sakura asked as Ino got up. Hey, maybe if we hurry we can catch him in the lobby, Ino said as she got up and almost sprinted off to the exit. Ino, wait up, Sakura whined as she chased after her friend. They quickly got dressed and headed out to the main lobby and looked around. Ino then went to the front desk and asked, has anyone come out of the male bath? No, nobody has come out of there, the clerk replied. All right, so we didn't miss him, Ino said as Sakura sighed. Was there ever anyone in there? Sakura asked the clerk. No, no one has been in or out of the male's bath since you two have gotten here. Why was someone spying on you from there? The clerk asked with a bit of anger, looking at the male bath door. No, we just had a bad feeling, that was all, Sakura said, more like the other way around, she said to herself as she grabbed Ino's arm and drug her away from the bathhouse. Okay, that's weird. I know we saw him. How did he get in and out without the clerk seeing anything? Ino asked. Did you not see the Yambiyu tattoo on his arm? Sakura asked. What? Ino asked, confused. There was Yambiyu tattoo on his right bicep. So he could have easily snuck in and gotten out without anyone noticing either that, or he told the clerk to not let anyone know he was there. That is what they do, Sakura said. Well, looks like little miss, I'm not a pervert, was looking closely at that body of his now, weren't you? Ino replied in a teasing tone. Oh, shut up, you were the one who tricked me into looking, Sakura said as Ino began to walk off and Sakura followed her. Well, when you found out, you didn't look away, did you? Ino asked as Sakura blushed, realizing she was right, and just followed in silence, thinking about what was carved into his back. Who are you and why did someone do that to you? She thought as she followed Ino and headed home. But unknown to them, there was an Anbu sitting in a tree above them in silence, merely shaking his head before jumping off into the night. The next day, Sakura was called into the Hokage's office. When she walked in, she was confronted by Kakashi, Temari, and Ino. Kakashi-sensei, haven't seen you in a while, Sakura said, seeing her old sensei. Yeah, I have been helping train up some new Yanbiyu, Kakashi replied, rubbing the back of his head as he lowered his book. Good, you're here, we can begin this briefing, Tsunade said as Sakura walked up to the desk. This morning we received word that the Sand Village was attacked. At this, Ino and Sakura went wide-eyed. And the 5th Kazekage has been captured. What? Why? How? Sakura asked in shock. We believe it was a group known as the Akatsuki, who are hunting down the tailed beasts. Tsunade explained the sand has requested assistance from us, and you are the only ones available to go. I would have left as soon as I had heard, but Lady Tsunade said she would gather a team to assist, so I waited. Temari added. Yes, now your mission is to go and assist in the search for Gaara. Also, Kankuro, the Kazakage, and Temari's brother, has been severely poisoned and needs you to heal him. Temari said. Yes, sure. When do we leave? Sakura asked. Once this briefing is done, go gather what you will need for this mission and head out immediately. Tsunade said. She then looked at Temari. I wish I could send more support, but we just have everyone that would be of use already on mission. But as soon as a team becomes available, I will send them. Thank you, Lady Hokage-sama. Temari replied. All right, get to it then, Tsunade said as they all left the room. After a few moments, she saw a shadow began to fidget, and she sighed and merely nodded as it disappeared. Sakura and the team had been going full speed to make it to the sand by nightfall, and she began treatment on Kankuro. After making a few antidotes for the poison and getting an hour's rest from the run and surgery, they were off again in search of Gaara along with the elder Lady Chiyo. They were currently following Pakun through the woods. After a while, they came to a canyon with a river and a cave covered by a huge stone. Just then, 4 more people jumped down next to them. Sakura-chan, it's so good to see you. One called out in an excited tone, getting everyone to see Team Guy standing along with them. Oh, hi there, Lee. Sakura said with a friendly smile and wave along with a sweat drop. The most beautiful Sakura-chan, will you go on a date with me? Lee calls out as he drops to a knee, holding out his hand to her. Lee, we have more important thing at hand right now, Sakura said, getting a tick mark above her eye. Yes, we have a 5-part seal here, and all 5 need to be removed at the same time the first is there. Kakashi said, pointing at the giant rock. The others should be close by. Right, I have all 4 in sight, said Niji. Yash, I'll be the first to get to mine in the name of my love for Sakura. If I do not, I'll do a 300 laps around the village while doing squat thrusts, Lee said excitedly as he shot up and ran off. Oh, he does realize you didn't tell him where it was, right? Lady Chiyo asked as everyone just shook their heads and headed out as well. After a few minutes, everyone was in position and signaled to remove the seal. Once Kakashi removed it, he jumped out of the way as Sakura ran and jumped, punching the massive boulder, pulverizing it into little bits. As the boulder fell apart, the team jumped into the cave and were faced with a hunchback and a blonde who was sitting on Gaara's body. Granny Chiyo, the hunchback said. Sasori, Chiyo said with venom, what have you done? That is the Kage of your home. Not my home anymore, Sasori said, then turned toward the blonde. Deidre, take the body out of here, and I'll meet up with you when I'm finished here. Oh, I was hoping to have a show. Deidre sighed as a ball of clay fell out of his hand, and it was enveloped by a cloud of smoke, and a giant bird was in its place. He jumped on its back as the bird picked up Gaara's body and took off out the entrance. Go after him, I'll take care of this, Chiyo said as Kakashi nodded, and he and Ino jumped after him, while Sakura stayed with Chiyo. I said go after him, she repeated. I heard, but what kind of girl would I be if I left an old lady here to fight this guy all alone? Sakura said with a smirk and cracked her knuckles, getting the old lady to smile. Sakura quickly jumped towards Sasori and his tail leapt out at her, but before it made contact, a kunai intercepted it, and then it was ripped backward by an invisible force. That gave Sakura the opening she needed to land a hit on the hunchback's back. As she jumped away, Sasori began to break apart and revealed a young man with red hair begin to stand up out of the husk. Using a chakra string attached to the kunai, and then attaching it to my tail to give her an opening, very clever, Granny. I'll congratulate you on being the first to get past Hiriko's defense, the redhead said, but I have plenty to replace him. He sighed as he pulled away his cloak to reveal he had turned himself into a puppet, getting the 2 women to gasp at what they were looking at. Since you got through my defense, so well, I guess a reward is in order. We don't want anything from you, Sakura shot back. Then I guess you don't want to know the spy I have in Orochimaru's organization? Sasori replied, or is my intel incorrect about you still wanting to get that Uchiha back? What he knows about Sasuke? Sakura asks herself. Tell me, what do you know about him? Where is he? She screams. If you are able to defeat me, I will tell you where you can meet my spy, and he will tell you everything you need to know, Sasori replied. Then we will defeat you and put an end to this once and for all. Chiyo said as she pulled out a scroll, and then in a puff of smoke 10 puppets appeared. This is my ultimate puppet technique, the mastery of setting one puppet per finger, she said with a bit of pride. How pathetic. Sasori spat. I've far surpassed you a long time ago, old lady, he said as he pulled out a scroll, and in another puff of smoke there were 100 puppets appeared, causing both women to go wide-eyed. Just then the puppets descended upon the two kunoichi. The battle lasted for a while, only leaving Chiyo with one puppet remaining and Sakura gasping for air, and Sasori had 10 puppets left. Well, guess this is the end for you, Sasori said as he sent all of his remaining puppets towards Sakura with their swords drawn. Sakura, Chiyo yelled as she sent her remaining puppet to intercept, but it was dispatched with ease. All Sakura could do was stand there and watch as the swords descended upon her, and she closed her eyes waiting for the swords to skewer her, but they never came. When she opened her eyes, she saw the back of a red-haired blonde-tipped Anbu with multiple blades sticking out from his back. Also, the nine-tailed Jinchuriki decided to come along as well, Sasori said with a smirk as Sakura just stared wide-eyed at the ninja in front of her. Well, looks like we will get two-tailed beasts out of this trip, he smirked. As Sasori gloated, the Yanbu reached up to the sword on his back, pulling it out, and swung it down, breaking the sword, stabbing him, and the puppets jumped back. You're tough, Sasori smirked, but that won't help you now that my poison is in your blood. At that, Sakura snapped out of her shock and jumped to his side and looked up to see a fox mask on his face. Here, take this, it's an antidote for his poison, Sakura said as the Anbu pulled out the blades that were in him, and she braced herself as a burst of orange chakra shot out of him and began to surround him, and black stuff began to ooze out of his cuts as they healed themselves. Using your own chakra to force out the poison, Sasori said. Impressive, but even with your demon chakra, it will completely drain you to get it all out, he said as he sent his puppets after him again. Once the puppets got close, the Yanbu bolted with his sword at the ready and cut down the puppets faster than Sakura could keep up with. 1 minute he was standing next to her, next he was gone, and the puppets were cut in half. Oh no you don't, I still have one trick up my sleeve, Sasori said as he pulled out a scroll. But before he could open it, it was hit with a kunai, knocking it out of his hands. Just then, he felt something impact him. He looked down and saw the Anbu's sword sticking out of his chest where his heart should be. Well, looks like I lost our little wager, Sasori said with a cough. I'm supposed to meet my spy in Orochimaru's organization at the Tenchi Bridge in 10 days. He coughed out as he faded away. The Anbu pulled out his sword and let the body slump to the ground, and then swung his blade, flicking the poison that had remained on it off, and sheathed the sword. Thank you, Sakura said as she walked up to him, only for him to look down at her. She looked up and saw red slit eyes behind his mask, and a pang of fear coursed through her body. Maybe next time you won't freeze up, and I won't have to save your ass, the Anbu said in a cold tone as he walked past her toward the exit, leaving a shocked and stunned Sakura where she was. He is right, if I hadn't frozen up, he wouldn't have had to save me, she said to herself. Forget him, even if he is hot as hell, he is just a dick. Inner replied, come on, we'll show him we are a force to be reckoned with. We were trained by a Sannin, right? Inner said. You just gonna stand there, or are we going to catch up with the rest of your team? The Yanbu asked, getting ready to head out. All right, Sakura said as she ran over to him and Lady Chiyo, and they jumped away, heading down the river. After a while, Sakura looked over toward the Anbu and asked but didn't know what to call him. It's Fox, Fox said, answering her unasked question. Yeah, Fox, how do you know we are going the right way? Sakura asked. I can smell them, Fox replied. What are you in Inuzuka? She asked. You're not supposed to ask an Anbu who they are, especially in front of non-village ninjas, Fox said, annoyed. All right, sorry, Sakura replied. I can smell the smoke from the explosives that guy has used. If you focus, you can smell the smoke left behind by them as well, he said, getting her to sniff, and she could smell the faint scent of burning smoke. Oh yeah, she said with realization. And those craters and burn marks are also pretty good indications, Fox said, pointing to the small craters scattered across the walls of the canyon they were running through. All right, she said under her breath. Just then they heard an explosion in the distance. Good, we're close. Hurry up, he called back as he quickened his pace, leaving the two kunoichi in his dust. Damn, wait up, Sakura called out to him, but he didn't listen. Damn, why won't he listen? She cursed. Because he is an Anbu. Chio said, getting Sakura to look over at her. If yours are anything like ours, they live by their own standards, and if you can't keep up, you get left behind. They don't like working with those that are not at their level. That is why they only accept the best within their ranks. I know, but we are a team and should stick together. Sakura said as they jumped into a clearing and saw Fox standing next to Kakashi in a fighting position, looking toward the blonde-haired man that they had been after. Now, he only had one arm. Sakura, came Ino's voice, getting Sakura to look over at her. Oh, thank God you're okay, she said, running over to her. Well, since those two are here, I'm guessing Sasori is dead, Deidre said. Yes, Sasori of the Red Sand is dead, Chio said. Well, I'm surrounded and severely outnumbered and running low on clay. Guess there is only one thing left to do, Deidre said. Surrender? Sakura asked. No, to do one last piece of art, Deidre said with a smile, and pulled out the rest of his clay and ate it. His body began to bulge and expand. Shit, he's going to blow, Kakashi yelled and began to use his Mangekyo Sharingan. Just then there was an explosion, and Kakashi was breathing heavily, slumped on one knee. I tried to get it all, but it was just too much. You got enough, we are all right, Fox said to him as he offered him a hand. And should have known you would have come on this mission, Kakashi said as Sakura and Ino walked up to them. Wait, Kakashi-sensei, you know him? Sakura asked. But before she could get an answer, Fox walked past her. She looked and watched as he walked toward Lady Chio, who was kneeling over Gaara's body with her hands on him, looking like she was trying to heal him. Fox walked up to her, and she was out of breath, gasping for air. Damned, I don't have enough chakra to do this, she cursed herself as she looked up and saw Fox standing over them. And what do you want? She spat as he got down on his knees and put his hand over hers and began to put his chakra into her jutsu, and it began to work. So who is he? Sakura asked. You know I can't tell you that, Sakura, Kakashi said. I know, but there is just something about him that is nagging at me. I just can't quite place it, Sakura said as they began to walk over to them, and Chio's hands stopped glowing and she fell to the ground. Sakura ran over too and began to try to heal her, but she quickly found out she was dead. That was when Gaara began to stir and sit up. Well, what happened? Gaara said as he looked around confused. Lady Chio gave her life so you could live on, Fox said as he held out his hand to help him up. She will be remembered and honored, Gaara said as he stood all the way up. Gaara-sama, came two high-pitched voices as two girls jumped and hugged him. That was when they noticed the group of sand ninjas standing in front of them. Kazakage-sama, you're all right, they all said as they ran to him and began to throw him up into the air with joy as the leaf ninja watched. Hey Sakura, isn't that the guy we were spying on in the hot springs? Ino whispered to Sakura, getting her to tense up as she looked over at him from the back and realized it was the same hair and tattoo. Oh my God, it is him, Sakura said to herself. Well, maybe this means we'll get to see him more often, Ino said with an evil grin, and even if he does have a demon inside him, he isn't too bad, especially on the eyes. At this, her eyes bulged in realization at remembering that Sasori had called him the nine-tailed Jinchuriki. As she was having this conversation with herself, Ino was on the outside trying to talk to her, but was getting no response. She then looked over and saw Fox was walking over to Kakashi, and she decided to see if she could find out anything more about this mysterious man. Hi there, Ino said as she walked up to the two, only for Fox to look at her for a second, then back to Kakashi. I'll be heading back to the village then, Fox said to the silver-haired Jonin. Did I just get ignored? Ino asked herself. Hey, I'm talking to you, Ino shouted. No, you're interrupting our conversation, Fox said, looking at her with a glare. Now, Fox, calm down. She is just curious. Not every day an ANBU comes along on a mission, Kakashi said. Very well, Fox sighed as he dropped the glare. Like I said, I'll head back to the village and give the Hokage my report. It may take us a while. I had to use that technique too many times and feel really weak, Kakashi said. Yeah, I feel a bit drained as well. Had to use a lot up myself, Fox said as he pulled out a solider pill and put it in his mouth under his mask. You know, those are for just quick fixes, not to be too heavily relied on, Kakashi said. It's enough to get me back, so I'll see you later, Kakashi-sensei, he said as he jumped away. At hearing that, Sakura broke out of her little argument and went over to Kakashi. Did he just call you sensei? Yes, that is why you haven't seen me around lately, is because he is one of the new up-and-coming ENBU, and they wanted me to train him. Kakashi said. Oh, alright, that makes sense. Sakura said, never knew you were such a big shot within the ANBU. They would call you back to train a new one. Well, I was one of the best ANBU captains in the village till the third made me your Jonin instructor. Kakashi said, getting the two girls to look at him in shock. And you never truly leave the ANBU. They can always call you back if you're needed. And is that why you were chosen to train our village's Jinchuriki? Sakura asked, getting Kakashi to look at her in shock. How do you know about that? Kakashi asked with shock. Sasori called him the nine-tailed Jinchuriki during our fight. Sakura said. Wait, Jinchuriki are those people you and Lady Chio were talking about earlier, who have a tailed beast in them like Gaara, right? Ino asked. Yes. Kakashi said, but don't hold that against him. He is really a good guy at heart. I wasn't going to. He saved my life against Sasori. I would just like to see him again to thank him for saving me. Sakura said. Yeah, that sounds like him. Kakashi said with a bit of a smirk as Guy's team landed not too far from them. And don't mention that to anyone but the Hokage, it's in strength secret. Kakashi whispered, getting the two kunoichi to nod their heads as Guy's team walked up to them. I need to find out who he is, Sakura said to herself as they all headed back to the hidden sand village. Chapter 3 Reunions. Sakura and the two teams that had been sent on the sand mission had taken a day at the sand for a little rest and were currently only a few miles from the border of the Land of Wind and Land of Fire. They still had 2 more days of travel before they got back to the village. All right, we're almost to the border. We should stop and rest once we cross the border, Kakashi said as he was leaning on Guy. That's it, I can't take it anymore. Guy yells as he tosses Kakashi up into the air and he lands on his back. This will be faster, he says as he takes off at a dead sprint. Ah yes, such a good idea of training. Lee shouts in excitement as he throws his pack in front of him and bends over ready to carry someone. Niji. No way in hell. Niji yells at him, breaking the normal stone-faced Hyuga. Then let me take your packs, he says excitedly. Fine if it will get us out of taking a piggyback ride from you, Niji said as he tossed his pack on Lee's back, as did everyone else. Now to catch up with Guy-sensei, Lee yelled as he shot off after his sensei. They do realize we were going to rest for the night, right? Ino asked. Yeah, once they get like this, there is no changing their minds, Niji said as he shook his head. Let's just catch up with them, he said as he jumped after them. Welcome to our world, Tintin said as she followed them. Great, I was hoping to get some sleep, Ino whined. Stop complaining and come on, Sakura said as they followed after them. After another day of straight running, it was dusk as the two teams came to the village gates. All right, Guy, you take Kakashi to the hospital. I'll let the Hokage know we're back, Sakura said as she broke off from the group. As she rounded the corner to the Hokage's office, she began to hear voices coming from the office. She silently walked to the door and peeked through the crack in between the two doors. Are you sure? Tsunade asked. Yes, Hokage-sama, he said in 10 days that he is supposed to meet his contact within Orochimaru's organization. Sakura saw the back of the ENBU who had saved her. That was 3 days ago, so we have 7 to organize a team to get over there. And that is what your apprentice is about to tell you once she is done peeping on us. At this, Sakura froze up, realizing she was caught, and walked in. Hi, Tsunade Shirsho, Sakura said as she walked in awkwardly, seeing the fox, ENBU, glaring at her. You know it is dangerous to spy on an ANBU, Fox berated, and I'm not only talking about when they are giving a report, he said, intensifying his glare. Ah shit, he knows it was us, she thought to herself. Ah damn, now he thinks we're perverts and won't go out with us. Inner cries. If that is all, ma'am, I will take my leave, Fox says as he shunshins out of there. I won't ask about what he was talking about. All I'll say is you have to be more careful, especially around ANBU. You may be my apprentice, but spying on a report by an ANBU, they have every right to kill you for that, Tsunade said. Yes, I'm sorry, Shirsho, Sakura replied, bowing. It's all right, if he was going to kill you, he would have done it, Tsunade replied, waving it off. So I have his report, but I want to hear your side of it. Yes, Shirsho, Sakura said as she began to give her report, then got to the part where the ANBU had jumped in front of the puppets protecting her. And I froze up, and he jumped in the way of the blades protecting me from them, Sakura said after a held breath. Then he quickly dispatched the rest of the puppets and killed Sasori after forcing out the poison with his own chakra. While he does have an absurd amount of it, and his control of it is also significant, Tsunade replied. And after he defeated Sasori, that is when he told us about his meeting with his mole. Sakura said, then finished the rest of her report. Very well, I'll get a team set up to go investigate this lead. Tsunade replied, go get some rest, come back tomorrow at 1700. Yes, ma'am, Sakura said as she turned around and walked out of her office. Well, looks like it's time for you to officially come back, Tsunade said to herself. After relaxing most of the day, Sakura was heading to the Hokage's office with a big grin on her face, knowing they were one step closer to finding her lost teammate. She only wished her other teammate was there to share in the joy. You miss the excitable idiot, don't you? Inner asked. Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen him. I wonder how much he's changed and how strong he's gotten. She replies. Yeah, I wonder what he looks like now, Inner said with a mischievous grin. No, not like that, he is a teammate and a close friend, Sakura replied as she entered the Hokage building. Who says we can't get close to our close friends, Inner replied. I'm not having this conversation with you again, Sakura said to her inner demon as she walked into the Hokage's office. You wanted to see me, sure? Sakura asked as she stood in front of her desk. Yes, I found the first member of the squad that will be going with you to the Tenchi Bridge, Tsunade asked. And I don't like it one bit, came a familiar voice, causing Sakura to turn around and see Fox leaning against a wall in the shadows. He then pushed off the wall and walked up next to her. Just to tell you I'm against this, I say give me an Anbu squad and we will get him. Yes, I have noted your suggestion, Tsunade said, getting a tick mark on her forehead. And I believe you two have the best chance of success in bringing Sasuke back. The two of us, Sakura thought to herself as she looked at Fox. Who is this guy? Oh, I didn't miss it, did I? Came another voice, causing Sakura to turn around and see Jiraiya sitting in the open window. Lord Jiraiya? Sakura asked in shock. If you're back, then that means, she began, then looked over at Fox with shock. Fox, I am removing you from ANBU status to return to normal ninja forces. Now remove you mask, Tsunade said as Fox grumbled and his demonic slit eyes closed, and he removed the mask, revealing the face of a young man with whisker marks. Then he opened his eyes, and she saw those sky blue eyes. However, now, instead of the joy they normally held, they were cold and lacked anything she could recognize from when they were kids. Naruto? Sakura asked in shock. Who did you expect? Naruto asked, putting his mask on his belt. You're back? You're an ANBU? Sakura asked in shock. Wow, nothing gets past you, he retorted sarcastically. But when? How? How long have you been back? Sakura asked, still shocked. About a year and a half, Naruto replied. What, a year and a half? She asked, shocked. Is there an echo in here? Yes, I got done with my training with the old perv in half the time it was supposed to take. Naruto shot back. But why did you join the ENBU and not come back, and not tell me you were back? Sakura asked. I have my reasons, Naruto said, and seriously, if this is how she is going to be, I seriously doubt she is up to par to be teamed up with me, he said, looking over at Tsunade. What? Oh no, he didn't just insult us, Inner yelled in her head. Oh, you don't think I'm up to snuff? Sakura asked as killing intent was radiating off of her. Then having a little spar with me won't be any problem, she offered as anger filled her voice as she clenched down on the chair that was next to her, breaking the backrest with her grip alone. Sure, why not? Naruto sighed, brushing off her killing intent as if it was nothing, and turned and headed to the door. I'll meet you in training area 7. Right behind you, she said evilly. Well, I can see she picked up those anger management issues from you. Jiraiya chuckled with a hint of fear as he turned towards Tsunade, who was glaring at him. Well, let's go see how our students have grown, shall we? Jiraiya said, jumping out the window before Tsunade could get a hold of him. The four of them were now standing in the open field of the training area. However, instead of the standard Anbu gear, Naruto was wearing a black flak jacket over a black long-sleeved shirt with orange shoulders that turned into strips along the arm, with black fingerless gloves, as well as black combat pants that had a strip of orange going down the side. And instead of the standard Anbu sword, he had one with black and orange weave around the handle across his back. When did you get changed? Sakura asked. I shot back to my place, changed over, then came over here, Since I'm no longer on the Yinbyu roster, can't be walking around in their gear, can I? Naruto asked. All right, you ready? Sakura asked as she got into a fighting pose as he just shrugged. All right, if you two are ready, begin. Tsunade said as Sakura shot straight at him, and he merely jumped away, causing her to punch the ground, leaving a huge crater. Well, seems you've increased your strength. Naruto replied dryly. Oh, and that isn't the only thing I've increased, Sakura said as she charged at him. As she did this, he put his hand in his weapon's pouch, causing her to stop in her tracks to see what he was pulling out. But instead of pulling out any weapons, he pulled out a small green book. The hell are you doing? Sakura asked. Reading, Naruto replied, as if it was obvious. Why, we are in the middle of a fight. Sakura shot at him, getting her angrier as she gets a look at the title of the book, Ika Ika Tactics. To find out what happens, of course. Naruto replies as Sakura goes into a rage and charges at him, swinging and yelling. How dare you read that smut while in front of me? Let only while in the middle of our fight, where I'm trying to show you how much I've grown. She yelled as she swung, but never touched him. Grown? Naruto scoffed. Don't make me laugh. You haven't changed a bit, he said, never taking his eyes off the book. Still prone to overreacting outburst over little shit. Sure, you have the strength to pulverize boulders, but that doesn't mean shit if you can't touch me, he said as he jumped out of the way. Oh, just wait, I'll get you, Sakura said as he stopped and lowered his book as she swung for his face and felt it connect. But when she looked, she saw he had easily deflected her fist. Also, if someone knows how to counter it, what do you have? Naruto asked as he put his book away. All I have due to is not get hit by your fist that has your chakra stored up in it, so I deflect at your wrist. He sighed. Oh, I ain't done yet, Sakura said as she threw everything she had at him, but he still simple deflected the punches. I'm getting tired of this. Naruto sighed as he caught her fist in his hand, causing her to look at him in shock. He then kneed her in the gut, getting her off the ground, then swung around and kicked her into a nearby tree. How? Came Sakura's voice out of the dust as she stood up slowly. How did you catch my punch so easily? Who has that technique been on used the most? Naruto asked, only to get a confused look on her face, getting him to shake his head. The old perv has been hit by that so many times it isn't even funny. Only an idiot would be hit by the same attack that many times and not figure out how to counter it. And he then taught it to me, knowing you would be trained in the same way, he said, getting both Sakura and Tsunade to go wide-eyed and Jiraiya to start inching away from the blonde. What is he talking about, Jiraiya? Tsunade asked. Jiraiya stalled. It's simple, you have no real strength. You simply focus your chakra to a pinpoint location in your fist and then release it on contact with your target. Naruto replied, explaining her technique. So simply, but if I focus enough chakra into the spot you are about to hit, it cancels out your chakra, causing it no damage, only what your body can do physically. Which isn't much, he replied, getting the two medical ninjas to realize he was right. Well, that isn't the only thing I have, Sakura replied as she charged at him. I'm getting tired of this. Naruto sighed as he went through some hand signs and slammed his palm on the ground. His toads won't be able to help him, Inner said as he just stood there with his hand on the ground. Wait, he didn't draw any blood for a summons, Sakura thought as she felt something tighten around her ankle and she fell face first on the ground. She tried to push herself off the ground, but all of a sudden, she felt something wrap around her, pinning her to the ground. The hell is going on? She shouted as she turned her head, looking around, seeing Naruto only a few feet away from her, then saw that it was red chains holding her down. My Kekkei Genkai, Naruto said. These chains won't hold me. Putting chakra into a certain point and releasing it on contact may be my primary technique, but not my only one, Sakura said as she focused her chakra into her muscles and tried to break free of the chains. Sorry, not gonna work. These chains are pure chakra, and they have a special ability to drain their victim of chakra and channel it to me, Naruto said as he drew out his sword and brought it up over his head and stabbed it down into the ground inches from Sakura's face. He got down onto a knee and whispered, maybe I am just a monster. At this, her eyes bulged, hearing her own words spoken back to her. Once he did that, he stood up and released his chains and sheathed his sword. This match is over, he said as he walked over to Tsunade and Jiraiya. She isn't ready, he said simply. Still, she will be going on your mission, Tsunade said. Very well, I'll be waiting for further word, Naruto said as he began to walk away. Tomorrow my office noon. Tsunade said. Yes, ma'am, Naruto said coldly as he shined away as the sun began to set. While he was leaving, Sakura hadn't moved as she was having an internal battle in her mind. Oh my god, he heard what we said that day. Sakura said to herself. That is why he is so angry at us. Inner said in an uncharacteristically sad tone. We need to find him and apologize. It must have hurt him even more because of the nine tails. Inner finished as Sakura's eyes bulged in realization. As she was having this argument, Tsunade and Jiraiya walked up to her. You alright? Tsunade said, getting the girl to look up at her master, and then stood up with tears in her eyes and hugged her. Don't worry, it's alright. Don't beat yourself up about it, you did good. He is one of our top ENBU. Tsunade said, trying to comfort her. Yeah, he can even go toe-to-toe with me now. Jiraiya said, trying to help and cheering her up. That's not it. Sakura said through tears. I called him a monster. She sobbed, getting a confused look from the two Sannin. What do you mean you called him a monster? Tsunade said. Over a year ago, I was having dinner with Ino, and he came up in the conversation, and then I called him a monster to her. She cried, getting the two elders to look at each other. He must have overheard me, because he repeated back those words to me just now. She cried. Oh, it's okay. Tsunade hugged her tighter. You'll get through this. You will get over it. No, I said such mean things not knowing what he was back then. Sakura sobbed. What do you mean what he was? Tsunade asked. That he has the nine-tailed fox in him. She sobbed. How do you know about that? Tsunade asked her, holding her away from her for a moment. Sasori said it when Naruto first appeared and saved me. Sakura said, and then I remembered what Lady Chiyo and Kakashi said about Jinchurikis being shunned as monster for bearing the demons. Don't worry, Sakura, you know it was wrong, and we'll apologize to him later. Tsunade said as she got done to look her in the eyes for comfort. Everything will be fine. Really? Sakura asked. Well, it may take a bit of work, you know how thick-headed he can be. Tsunade said with a smile, but eventually he will accept your apology, but right now you need to get home and get some rest while he blows off some steam. All right. Sakura sighed as she let Tsunade take her away. Oh, and I haven't forgot about you. Tsunade said, turning toward Jiraiya. Me, what did I do? Jiraiya asked. That book, Tsunade said, raising an eyebrow. It hasn't been released to the public, so the only place he could get a copy of it is from you. What I want a review of it before I send it off to the stores. Jiraiya said innocently as Tsunade glared at him while leading Sakura off. Over at the hospital, Naruto snuck into Kakashi's window. So then, since you don't have your Yinbyu stuff on, I'm guessing you are back in the regular ninja forces? Kakashi asked. Yep, even got put with Sakura again. Naruto sighed. Good, it'll be good for you two to reconnect. Kakashi replied with a smile. You were the only one I told about that night. You know how I feel about her now. Naruto said. Oh, is that why you threw yourself in front of those swords for her? Kakashi asked. I don't know what happened. My body just moved on its own. Naruto replied. I think that deep down you still care for her the same way you did when you were kids. Kakashi replied, getting Naruto to sigh. Maybe, but I ain't ready to forgive her just yet. Naruto sighed. I'm not telling you to, but remember when she first felt the fox's chakra, she was only 12, and that chakra is intimidating to even the most hardened ninja, so it's no shock she was afraid of it when she felt it. And back then she didn't know about your burden. Kakashi said. Yeah, and now that she knows I'm Fox and Sasori called me out on being the nine-tailed Jinchuriki right in front of her, it won't take long for her to figure it out. Naruto sighed. Maybe it's a good thing. Kakashi said, getting Naruto to raise an eyebrow at him. I'm just saying now that she knows it will be easier for her to understand your burden better and maybe help you with it. Kakashi said, getting him to shrug a bit. And now that you got beating the hell out of her out of your system, let her try to make up for it. How did you know I beat the hell out of her? Naruto asked. Come on, I've known you two since you were genin, and you have always spoken best through your fists, and she not as much, but she also does as well. Kakashi said, causing Naruto to sigh again. One of these days you gotta tell me why you are so good at this psychiatrist shit. Naruto said as he walked toward the window. Personal experience of loss before acting on it. Also, I tried to do the same thing you have been doing. Kakashi sighed, trying to bury your emotions within the ENBU. It doesn't work, trust me. He finished, getting Naruto to stop at the window, and a sullen look to go across his face. Oh, almost forgot, brought you a present. Naruto said as he walked back to Kakashi's bed and pulled something out of his weapon's pouch and held up a little green book that caused Kakashi's eye to nearly bulge out of his head. Is that? Kakashi asked. Yep, an advanced copy of Ika Tactics before even the review staff gets their hands on it. Naruto replied as he set it on the bedside table. It's really good, probably the best one yet. So since you were so helpful with training and everything else, I'm giving it to you as a get-well-soon present, he said as he walked back over to the window. But I can't move my body at all. Kakashi says, how am I supposed to hold it to read it? What's the point of getting a get-well-soon present if you can use it before you get well? It's incentive to get better, Naruto said with a smirk as he jumped out the window. That sadistic bastard. Kakashi cursed as he began to cry himself to sleep. Tsunade was letting Sakura lean on her as she guided the half-asleep Kunoichi toward her home when Ino came around the corner. Oh hi Hokage-sama, Sakura, Ino said in a cheerful voice, but as she got closer, she saw Sakura was out of it. She also looked like she was beat up pretty bad, and her eyes were puffy like she had been crying. Oh, what's wrong with Sakura? She asked in a concerned tone. She just overdid it in a sparring match, Tsunade replied. With who? Ino asked. I know it wasn't you, because you have a strict rule of 2 days off before training again after a mission like the one we just had. Also, a fight with you wouldn't make her cry and cause her eyes to puff up like that. Well, you see, Tsunade said, trying to find a cover story. Naruto. I'm sorry, Naruto. Please forgive. Sakura said in a dream-like voice. What about Naruto? Ino asked, looking at Tsunade, who had the face of someone who was caught with her hand in the cookie jar. All right, Naruto is back and had a spar with her. Things got heated, and he went a little overboard. Tsunade replied, no, the Yamanaka clan can sense deceit easily, making them one of the best interrogation specialists in the village. Nothing she said was untrue, just not the whole truth. What, Naruto's back in the village? Ino asked. Yes, he is, and he just went a bit overboard with the spar, and that was it. Tsunade repeated. Okay, I'm going to go find him and give him an earful, because if it was just a spar, she wouldn't be crying like that, Ino said as she ran off. Ino ran around the village looking everywhere for the blonde, to no avail. She was about to give up when she spotted the long blackish-blue hair of a certain Hyuga. Hey, Hinata, Ino called out, causing the Hyuga heiress to turn around. Oh, hi there, Ino. How are you doing? Hinata asked. All right, but I need your help, Ino replied. Okay, but with what? Hinata asked, a bit confused. Use your Byakugan to find Naruto, Ino said. Wait, Naruto-kun? Hinata stuttered. He is back? Yeah, Lady Tsunade just told me he had a fight with Sakura. Now I'm going to see what it was all about, Ino explained. They had a fight? Hinata asked, getting a little excited, thinking that he finally got rid of his crush for her and made an opening for her to slip into. Yeah, he made her cry, and I'm going to see why, Ino replied. Now get to the finding already. Right, Hinata said as she activated her Byakugan and began to search. There he is, she exclaimed. Are you sure? Ino asked. Yes, his chakra has changed slightly, but that is him, I'm sure, Hinata replied. All right, let's go, Ino said as they headed out toward Naruto. They jumped from rooftop to rooftop and finally landed a little ways away from him. All right, where is he? Ino asked, looking around. Right there, Hinata said, pointing to a man with blood-red hair fading into blonde. As soon as she saw where she was pointing, she shot over to him without looking too closely at him. Well, hello, Ino, Hinata, Naruto said as they came up to him. Thought I felt someone looking at me with a Byakugan, he replied. Wait, you could tell I was looking at you? Hinata asked with shock. You weren't really trying to suppress it in any way, Naruto replied. Anyone who knew what to feel for could sense it. You could feel me? She asked, going red and fainting. She still does that? Naruto asked, pointing at her. Well, you've been gone for 3 years, so yeah, apparently. Ino sighed, but that isn't why I'm here, she said as Hinata began to pick herself off the ground. And why are you here trying to peep on me in the hot springs again? But with Hinata instead of Sakura this time, Naruto asked, causing both girls to go red. Nana Naruto-kun in the hot springs, Hinata said as an image of Naruto in the hot springs entered her mind and she passed out again. What? Ino asked in shock. How did you know we were there and it was us? Well, first think about who my master is, Naruto replied and paused for a second. Because of him, I know where every peephole in Fire Country is as well as most of the rest of the countries. Don't even get me started on Land of Hot Water. Yeah, well, Ino stuttered, but no, that isn't why I'm here. Then what? Naruto asked as Hinata woke back up and got up. It's Sakura, you made her cry because of your spar. Ino replied at this, his eyes lost any kind of kindness that were there, and killing intent began to resonate off of him. And I'm supposed to care? Naruto replied. Well, she's your teammate and friend, Ino said, holding back from trembling. What is wrong with him? Hinata asked herself as her knees began to shake, just being in Naruto's presence. This isn't the Naruto-kun I know, not the one I fell in love with. She said to herself. I'll give you credit, not many can stand up to my killing intent and still hold firm like that. Naruto said with a smirk that sent a chill down both Kunoichi's spines, but next time you come to chew me out for something, get the whole story. He said as he turned around. As for me, I'm going to get a drink. He said as he headed toward the open door of a bar. Hey wait, you're only 16, you can't drink. Even if you're a ninja, an underage genin still can't drink. Ino shouted as she ran after him as he walked through the door. Haha, genin, that's cute, Naruto said as Ino and Hinata walked through the door after him, but instead of being in a bar, they were walking out the door of the bar they had just tried to enter. What the hell? Ino asked as she looked around and turned around and tried to get in again, but only to have the same results. Okay, seriously, what the hell? Just then, two guys walked out of the bar, one with blonde hair and another with black hair and white eyes of the Hyuga. Shugo-kun? Hinata said to the Hyuga that was walking out, who looked over at her. Oh, Lady Hinata, what are you doing here? Shugo asked, a little shocked. You shouldn't be in this part of town. But my friend went into that bar, and we are trying to follow him, but can't, Hinata explained, getting the two to look back into the bar. And you won't be able to, Shugo said. What, why not? Hinata asked. Because there is a jinjutsu on the place, only people with the proper seal can get in, Shugo explained. What seal is that? Ino asked. This one, the blonde that was with him said as he pulled up his sleeve, showing an Anbu tattoo. That is an Anbu tattoo, Hinata said as things began to fall into for Ino place as she thought about the past couple of days. The tattoo on Naruto's arm when she saw him in the hot spring, the fox Anbu having the same hair as Naruto had now. My god, he is. Ino began, but had her mouth covered by the other blonde that was with the Hyuga. If you're following the person, I think you are just drop it. He doesn't like people tailing him, let alone knowing he is even here, the blonde said. You mean Naruto-kun is AAA? Hinata began, but couldn't finish looking at the other Hyuga. I'm sorry, my lady, I can't confirm or deny who is or isn't, Shugo said. Well, since we just watched him go in that bar, it's pretty obvious, Ino said. Sorry, but allow me to escort you home, Lady Hinata, Shugo said as Hinata followed him away. And Inoichi would kill me if he found out I found you in this part of the village at this time of day and just left you here, the blonde said as Ino got a better look at him and realized he was from her clan, a distant cousin or something. Fine, only cause I know you'd tell my father and he would raise all sorts of hell. Ino sighed, so just let us not tell him where you found me. My lips are sealed, the man said as he led her away. Naruto, what happened to you? Ino thought as she glanced back at the bar and walked away. Naruto sat in the bar with a drink. Thanks, guys, he mumbled as he drank his drink. Chapter 4, A New Team. Sakura walked into the Hokage's office at noon. Her eyes were still puffy and red from crying most of the night. As she walked into the office and saw Naruto standing in front of the desk with his arms crossed, just giving her a hard look. Ah, good you're here, Tsunade said as she saw her apprentice walk in. Ah yes, sure show, she said, getting Naruto to turn around and look at Tsunade as she walked up next to him. I wanted to inform you I've selected new team members for this mission to recover Sasuke, she said, getting both of their attentions. First is Sai, she says as a pale boy with black pants and a vest that showed off his midriff walked in with a creepy fake smile on his face. Hi, I'm Sai, the boy said, still keeping the creepy look on his face. Could he at least try to make that fake smile work? Inner said as they felt a shiver run down her spine as she looked and saw that Naruto was glaring at him. And your second member and captain of the squad is Captain Yamato, Tsunade replied as a man with brown hair wearing a headband that covered the sides of his face walked into the room. At seeing the man and then hearing his name, Naruto cocked an eyebrow as Yamato walked up to him. "Hi there, it will be a pleasure working with all of you," Yamato said as he extended his hand, shaking Naruto's. "You as well, Captain," Naruto said with a friendly smirk. "And you must be Sakura, I've heard a lot about you. It's an honor to work with you," Yamato said, walking up to her and shaking her hand as well. "Very well, since you have been introduced, I'll turn the floor over to Naruto to debrief you on the mission at hand," Tsunade said as Naruto walked up in front of the desk. "Thank you, Lady Hokage," Naruto said as he then turned around to look at the team. But as he said that, Sakura noticed a small tinge of pain go across Tsunade's face when he spoke to her. "All right, 5 days ago we received intel about the meet between an Akatsuki member and his mole that infiltrated Orochimaru's organization and a possible location on Sasuke Uchiha," Naruto said in a professional manner. "Wow, he is nothing like that knuckle-headed spaz he was when he was a kid," Inner said. "Yeah, he has certainly changed," Sakura said as a sad look went across her face. "You miss the old him, don't you?" Inner asked. "Yeah, he may have been a baka, but he was our baka," Sakura said when she heard something snapping in front of her, and she looked up and saw Naruto's hand snapping in front of her. "Hey, Captain, Yamato asked you a question," Naruto said as she realized she zoned out. "All right, sorry, what?" Sakura asked. "I was just wondering why this Sasori guy gave you this information," Yamato replied. "Oh right, he said it was a gift for having beaten him," Sakura replied. "I don't know, it seems pretty suspicious to me," Yamato said. "It could be a trap, because why else would they hand over a spy like that?" "I thought the same thing, and it has crossed my mind this may be a trap," Naruto replied. "And you're still willing to risk it?" Yamato asked. "Trap or not, this is the first lead he have had on recovering Sasuke, so we can't dismiss it simply because it could be a trap," Naruto replied. "That is very true," Yamato replied. "It also gives us a second opportunity," Naruto replied, getting everyone's attention. "We have been hunting down Orochimaru for years, and this is also one of the first leads we have had on him," Naruto replied as Yamato let a small bit of anger go across his face. "So even if we don't find Sasuke, we could still gather some intel on that snake-faced bastard," Naruto replies. "Agreed," Yamato replied. "He has been running free and causing havoc for too long." "Yes, but our primary objective is Sasuke. We want to bring him in alive," Naruto said, stressing the last word, looking over at Sai. "Orochimaru is secondary, and as for him, it is kill on sight. So we will depart for the bridge tomorrow morning. As long as we make good time, we should be there in 2 days. That gives us 2 days to check out the area and plan out everything off of that," he finishes. "Very good, Naruto," Tsunade replies as he walks back over to his spot. "All right, everyone go get prepared and get some rest before tomorrow morning." "Yes, ma'am," everyone says with a salute and turn around. "Naruto, can I speak to you for a moment?" Sakura asks softly, getting him to turn around. "Yeah," he replies as Sai and Yamato walk out the door, closing it behind them. "I wanted to say I'm sorry for what I said that time a year ago," Sakura said as tears began to form in her eyes. "Sorry you said it, or sorry I heard it?" Naruto asked, getting her to look up at him. "I should have never said that. I had no idea about the—" Sakura began as she looked up at him. "Save it, I don't want your pity," Naruto said as her eyes widened. "This won't be as easy as a simple apology," he said, looking at her hard. "What you said cut really deep. You know why?" She simply shook her head. "Because I thought you were different," he said, narrowing his eyes toward her. "I am used to the villagers hating me for what was sealed in me. But hey, they didn't know me. All they went off of was what they had heard and what they knew about the fox. But you got to know me, fought beside me, and I would even call you a friend, and I have very few of those. Then I heard you say that, going off of what you have heard instead of what you have seen with your own 2 eyes. When did I ever show any reason for you to be scared of me other than that bridge?" Naruto asked, raising an eyebrow. Sakura just couldn't breathe as she couldn't think of any time he showed himself to be dangerous. "That's what I thought," he said as he began to walk for the door. "I don't know if I will ever be able to forgive you," he said, getting her to start crying. Upon hearing her tears, he stopped in front of the door before opening it and let out a sigh. "But I did promise Kakashi I would give you a chance," he said as he turned around, causing her to look up with a bit of hope. "It will take a lot to convince me to, but I will give you a chance." "Really?" Sakura asked as he sighed again with a nod and reached into his weapons pouch and pulled out a little orange book. You know why I like this book so much? Naruto asked, holding it up. Because you're a pervert, Ina replied. No, we can't say that, especially now that he is willing to give us a chance. Sakura replied to her inner self. Know why? Because this book is a lot like me. Naruto began as Tsunade began to get tick mark above her eye. And no, not in the way you're thinking, he said, pointing over at her. It's because it's misunderstood. Naruto replied, getting both women to get a confused look on their faces, causing him to just sigh. All right, everyone knows this book has smut in it, correct? Naruto asked. Yes, Sakura replied. But how do you know when you have never read it before? He asked. Well, because Sakura began but paused, trying to think of an answer. Exactly, you don't know for sure, you have only heard about the bad parts of it. Naruto replied, you have only heard of the dirty parts inside this book, like everyone in the village has heard about the demon that lives in me. So everyone only hears about the dirty parts in it and assumes it is all dirty, just like everyone hears about the 9 tails in me and assumes I'm evil because of it. He said, getting Sakura to look down in shame. But those who actually take the time to read the book find out it is actually a really good read, with good character development and storyline. You jumped halfway into my book and read till you were scared and shut it, and took what you had heard about me and thought that was all of it. Naruto said, getting her to look up at him with tears in her eyes. Now, as your punishment, you will read this and all the other books in the series. He says, getting a shocked look from both Sakura and Tsunade, and once you have finished them and understand them, I will consider accepting your apology, he said as he tossed her the book. This is your last chance. Yes, I won't mess this up, Sakura said as she held the book. All right, I am going to kill Jiraiya for this, Tsunade said. And why is that? Naruto asked. Have you even read his books? Well, I've skimmed them, Tsunade replies, trying to play it off. It's not the same and you know it. Naruto said, this is your teammate's books and you haven't even read them. I'm starting to respect him more than you now, because even though he is no good at it and has no idea what half the stuff is, he has still read every single one of your medical books you've written, he said, getting Tsunade to go wide-eyed. He what? Tsunade asked, shocked. Oh yeah, it was actually kind of entertaining watching him try to understand it on occasion, Naruto said with a smirk of a good memory. So read them. I know he has sent you his handwritten original copies once they were done being copied, he said, getting Tsunade to look down at a drawer. And don't focus on the smut, read deeper and see why the main character does what he does. You'll be surprised, he said as he walked out the door, leaving the stunned Kunoichi in the room. Naruto walked out of the Hokage building and headed toward his favorite ramen shop. He walked up to the shop and took a seat. Hey old man, what a guy got to do to get a couple bowls of ramen over here, he called out in cheerful voice. Is that? Came an older male's voice. As a large man walked out from the back. It is you, Naruto, the man said with a smile. Hey, how you doing, old man? Naruto said with a smile. Hey, I am not that old, he said with a smile as he got a better look at him. Hey, what did you do with your hair? I just grew out like that as I got older, Naruto said as he scratched his head. All right, well, what can I get for you? The old ramen cook asked. Well, let's start off with 4 miso porks, all right, Naruto said. All right, the first round is on the house since we haven't seen you in so long, he said as he disappeared to the back of the shop to begin on the order. Never ceases to amaze me how much of this stuff you can wolf down, came a voice from beside him. Well, Tenzo, good to see we will be on the same team again, Naruto said, looking over at the man who he had just been introduced to him as Yamato. Hey, that is Captain Yamato now, Yamato said, emphasizing the captain part. Perhaps, but it will always be Tenzo-senpai to me, Naruto said with a grin, causing Yamato to grin as well. I don't know what it is, but your smile is just too contagious for its own good, Yamato said with chuckle. Yeah, guess so, Naruto said as his meal was brought out to him. So going to be okay working with her again? Cause when we had to tail along on that mission she was sent on 6 months ago, you seemed to have a few choice words about her, Yamato replied. I've learned to keep personal and business separate, Naruto said. One of our requirements as ANBU. That it is, Yamato replied. Well, it is good to have you on my squad again, Naruto replied. Just wish it was the rest of our squad on this mission instead. Yeah, but at least we know how to work well with each other. And even though Sakura might not be ANBU, I've heard she picks up fast, so it should work out, Yamato replied. Yes, she was always the top of the class, never that good in a fight, but smart as hell. She should be all right, Naruto replied. From what I've heard, she can hold her own in a fight. Yamato replied. She has improved in that field, but not in actual combat. She has mostly only seen training and the inside of a hospital. We both know there is a huge difference between battlefield experience and training. Naruto replied. Agreed. Now as for this Saigai, Yamato said. We will have to keep an eye on him. Naruto replied it was Danzo's only way to weasel his way to keep an eye on me, but my biggest concern is keeping an eye on him during this mission. Right, Danzo was one of the biggest voices in labeling Sasuke a missing nin and having a kill-on-sight order placed on his head. Yamato said. Wouldn't surprise me if he has given that order to Sai once we find him. Naruto said. Exactly what I was thinking. Yamato replied as he began to get up. Well, I'll see you tomorrow then. Naruto said. All right, and remember, stick to the shadows. Yamato said. You as well. Naruto said as he watched Yamato leave. Sakura sat at the barbecue restaurant staring at the small orange book on the table Naruto had given her when she heard an all-too-familiar voice. Ah, there you are, forehead, Ino said as she sat down opposite her. Oh, hi, Piggy. Sakura said, not really paying attention and picking up the book, but had it snatched away before she could. Oh, what have we here? Ino teased as she held up the book. Hey, give it back, Ino pig. Sakura yelled as she reached over the table. Oh, getting a little perverted, are we? Ino teased. No, I have to read it, or else. Sakura began but stopped. Or else what? Ino asked. Or else Naruto won't forgive me. Sakura replied. And why would he need to forgive you? Ino questioned. He is the one who should be asking forgiveness after the state he put you in yesterday. What, how did? Sakura began. I ran into you and the Hokage last night, and you were beaten up pretty badly as well as crying. Ino cut her off, and Tsunade told me you had gotten into a fight with Naruto, and I hunted him down to make him apologize, and he just brushed me off and said I didn't know the whole story. Because you don't, Sakura said. Then tell me. Ino pushed. It's between me and him. Sakura replied. Oh, don't give me that I'm your best friend, and when I see you like this I have to help, so tell. Ino said as Sakura remained quiet. Tell me, or you won't get this book back. All right. Sakura admitted. You remember that time about a year and a half ago when I called him a monster, and you slapped me? Yeah, Ino replied. Well, apparently he had come back early and overheard us talking. Sakura explained, getting Ino to go wide-eyed in realization. And he heard you call him that, Ino replied. And because of that, I'm positive that is what drove him into the ANBU and why he is not like he was before. Sakura said, breaking down. It's all my fault, she said as she felt someone hug her. Don't worry, it'll be all right, Ino said as she pulled away from the hug. It's Naruto, I'm sure he will forgive you. Ino said he may have changed on the outside, but I'm sure deep down he is still the same old goofball we remember. Thanks, Ino, Sakura said. Now I'm going to go find him and have a talk with him, Ino said as she got up to leave. Wait, no, Sakura began. Don't worry, I just want to see some stuff on my own, Ino said with a smile. Oh, and have fun with this, it's a good read, she said with a teasing smile as she walked out of the restaurant. Naruto walked down the road toward his apartment when he heard someone call out to him. Naruto, hold it right there, Ino called out as he looked back and saw the blonde running toward him. What is it, Ino? Naruto replied as she caught up with him. I wanted to talk, Ino replied. Really? I thought you just wanted to call out my name then ignore me, Naruto replied sarcastically. Oh, just the regular joker, aren't you? Ino berated with her hands on her hips. I don't have time for this, I have a mission to prep for, Naruto said as he began to walk away. Hey, I'm talking to you, Ino shouted as she chased after him. I heard what happened from Sakura, she said as she caught up and went quiet. Oh, did you now? Naruto replied, and what did she say? She said you heard our conversation that day, she called you a monster, Ino replied. And if I recall, you were right there with her when she said it, Naruto replied. Yeah, and I slapped her for it, Ino said, getting a surprised look from Naruto. Well, that is a surprising, Naruto replied. And why is that? Ino replied. I just don't get that kind of reaction from people all that often when someone calls me a monster, Naruto replied. Why wouldn't I? We are friends, and I don't like it when people call my friends names, Ino replied. I would say we're more of acquaintances, comrades in arms, than friends. You and pretty much everyone else in our class ignored or picked on me, Naruto replied, getting Ino to make an angry face. How could you say we aren't friends? Ino yelled at him. Because honestly, when have we ever spent time together? Naruto asked. Well, there was that one time when I had to pretend to be a princess who had gotten fat. Ino replied. Missions don't count. Naruto replied. What, why not? Ino asked. Because friends hang out off of work as well. Tell me one time we hung out when it didn't involve a mission? Naruto replied. Well, there was. Ino began but stopped. Exactly, now this is my place, and I gotta get my stuff ready for tomorrow's mission. Naruto replied as he stopped in front of a walled-off apartment building. Wait, I thought you lived over on the other side of town? Ino asked. I moved once I became an ENBU. Naruto said, and you won't be able to follow past the gate. And why is that? Ino asked. Because like that bar, you need a special seal to get in. He replied, patting his arm. Also, this is, Ino began. Private community. Naruto replied with a smirk as he walked in. But fine if you say we aren't friends, because we have never hung out when it didn't involve a mission. Let's hang out when you get back from this mission. Ino replied. You are persistent, aren't you? Naruto sighed. You have no idea. Ino replied. Fine, we'll grab a bite to eat when I get back. Should be back in about a week or so. Naruto said as he disappeared into the building. The next day, Naruto stood outside the village gates with Sai, Yamato, and Sakura. All right, everyone is here, so let us be off. Yamato replied as they began to walk down the road. As they were walking, Yamato noticed Sakura was reading a book. So Sakura, what is that you're reading there? Yamato said, getting the pinkette to look up and then blush a bit at the question as she turned it to show it was the first of the Ika Ika series. This gave Yamato a slum look as he wondered over to Naruto. The hell you doing giving her that book? Yamato asked. How do you know it was me? Naruto asked. I can see your name on it. Yamato replied as Naruto saw his own name in the corner of the book. Oh, so that is where my copy went, Naruto replied innocently. Oh, don't give me that. You received that from Jiraiya and never let anyone else read it while we were on missions, not even Kakashi. Yamato replied, are you trying to corrupt your own teammate? He said, giving him the creepy, scary face. Okay, one, that doesn't work on me anymore. And two, if I remember, you have read those books as well. Naruto said. That was only because Kakashi-senpai forced me to. Yamato countered. So you're saying you don't want to borrow Ika Ika tactics from Kakashi? Naruto replied. Well, I didn't think that came out for another 6 months. Yamato replied. Well, the author is my master, and that comes with a few perks. Like an ultra-advanced copy. Naruto replied, but if you don't want it, I'll tell Kakashi to give it back to me when he is done. Getting a conflicted look on Yamato's face. You're a sadistic bastard, you know that, right? Yamato replied. So I've been told. Naruto said with a smile. After 2 days of travel, they finally made it to the Tenchi Bridge. All right, let's set up camp, and we will do recon of the bridge in the morning. Yamato said as they came to a small clearing in the woods. All right, Sakura replied as she pulled off her pack and started to pull out her sleeping bag. Just then she looked up and saw Yamato making hand signs and would shot out from the ground and began to form a small cabin. Oh wow, Sakura said with excitement. That is amazing, Captain. Yeah, I know. Yamato replied with pride sticking out his chest. They spent the next few days getting prepared for their upcoming meet with Sasori's spy. All right, we all have the plan. Yamato asked. Yes, you go in with your Wujutsu pretending to be Sasori and get what intel you can, and then we follow him back and hit the base. Sakura said. Correct, everyone get to positions. Yamato said as he created his disguise, and everyone jumped to their positions within the tree line. Once everyone was in position, he moved out to the bridge. Shortly after, he did, a cloaked figure walked over to him from the other side of the bridge. The squad looked at the mole and got a look at his face and saw a young man with white hair and glasses. Kabuto, Naruto thought as he got a better look at him. Do you have the information? Yamato asked. Yes, but there is a small change in plans. Kabuto said as he swung his hand coved in chakra down on Yamato's fake puppet, shattering it, as Yamato jumped out of it and away from Kabuto. I wasn't expecting you. Kabuto said as Orochimaru slithered up next to him. Good to see you again, Orochimaru said with a sly smirk. Can't say the same, Snake. Yamato said. You may as well tell those three to come out. Orochimaru said as Yamato signaled for the rest of the team to come out, and they jumped behind him. "Captain Yamato, are you all right?" Sakura asked. "Oh, going by Yamato now?" Orochimaru chuckled, getting a confused look from Sakura. "And you brought the fox brat with you as well. I can only assume you are here for Sasuke-kun. Give him back to us," Sakura called out. "And who says he wants to go back with you?" Orochimaru asks, getting the pinkette to recoil. "Whether he wants to or not, I drag him back," Naruto called out. "You failed the last time. What makes you think you'll do any better this time?" Orochimaru asked with a chuckle. "I held back last time because I didn't want to kill him, and it gave him the opening he needed," Naruto replied as his eyes turned red and slit. "But first I'll deal with you." "Oh really, that would be something to see." Orochimaru laughed as an orange aura began to envelope Naruto. "You sure about this?" Yamato asked Naruto. "Only way to match his strength, I won't take it too far," Naruto replied as Sakura looked at them with confusion, "but stand by in case I can't hold it." "Got it," Yamato replied as Naruto launched himself at the pale madman in the blink of an eye that even Orochimaru couldn't keep up with, and was launched into the forest behind him. Naruto then swung for Kabuto, but he was already jumping away and avoided the hit. Sakura stood in shock. "What is going on?" she asked herself. "This feeling, this presence, I've felt it before." She told herself, trying to think. "That's it at the bridge during the Land of Waves mission. This is the same feeling I had back then." A feeling of absolute fear and helplessness, she said as her legs began to shake, as he looked back at her. "I understand why you may see me as a monster when I use this," Naruto said, getting her to look up at him in shock, "but I will never do anything to hurt you. So please don't fear me," he said to her as he turned away, and Orochimaru walked out of the forest with his face torn apart and another one behind it. "Well, looks like you have come far as a Jinchuriki," Orochimaru said as he put a hand to his face, putting it back together. "You've only seen the surface," Naruto said as a single tail began to form out of the chakra surrounding him while his teeth and nails grew. "Then let's see what you've got," Orochimaru said as Naruto launched toward him, but the snake was expecting it this time and jumped away, followed closely by Naruto. "Sakura, saw you handle this guy, I'll go back up," Naruto, Yamato ordered as he jumped toward where Naruto and Orochimaru were battling. Sakura turned to look at Kabuto, who had already vanished somewhere. She called out and saw he was gone as well. "Damn, where did they go?" she asked herself just before she heard a blood-curdling roar. "No, Naruto needs us more than going after them," she told herself as she ran to the edge of the bridge and looked down. To her horror, and saw a four-tailed fox with a human face standing on the one side of the ravine and Orochimaru on the other. The fox had raised its head, and a massive black sphere was shrinking into its mouth and was swallowed by it, as three massive demonic metal doors appeared in a poof of smoke. Once the fox turned its head toward them, and a beam of red chakra shot straight for them. The moment the beam touched the first door, it erupted into an explosion that threw Sakura away from the bridge, making her crash on the side she had come from. Once the dust had settled, the three doors were completely gone, and Orochimaru lay in the ground head first like a post. Once again the fox let out a roar, but just then a sword burst from the ground, impacting him in the stomach and launching him into the top of the cliff next to Sakura. She followed the very long blade to find it inside the mouth of Orochimaru, whose neck had also elongated and twisted. Sakura just stood there frozen as she gazed upon what her teammate had turned into. "He is a monster," she said to herself, then she shook her head. "No, he is still Naruto. Deep down I know it. Even if his outside is like this, he is still the nice, lovable idiot I know. I will bring that side of him back out no matter what," she said to herself, but didn't realize the blade that had stabbed Naruto hadn't pierced him, but was just pushing into his skin. With a quick push, the blade that was in gut was now coming straight for her. She saw the blade and felt something pick her up and out of the way of it as it passed under her. She looked over to see Yamato standing at her side with his arm around her. "Are you all right?" Yamato asked. "Yeah, she began, but merely just looked back at Naruto. "Yeah, I know what you mean. It can be overwhelming the first time you see it," Yamato said as he looked over at him. "But there is nothing he wouldn't do to complete a mission, especially this one." "What do you mean?" Sakura asked in shock. "Let's just say I have worked with Naruto before, and he has always been willing to give it all just to complete the mission. However, this mission of getting the Uchiha back has always been his biggest driving force. I don't know too much of the background behind it, but there is something there that is making him willing to do anything to complete this mission, even give up his humanity to finish it. Yamato replied. This just caused Sakura to stare at him in complete shock. You don't think he is doing this just for us? For that promise he made to us 3 years ago? Inner asked as Sakura thought about. He was always going on about how he always comes through on his promises. He failed once, and he sees this as his only opportunity to make it right, Sakura said to herself. But if he keeps up like this, I will lose him as well. I don't want it if it means I have to give one up for the other. She said to herself as tears began to flow down her cheeks. Just then she dashed toward him, yelling, Please Naruto, stop, don't do this. I know you want to keep your promise to me, but I don't want it if it means I lose you as well. That was when Naruto turned his head to look at her, and his tail came up and swiped at her. Shit, Sakura, get back here. Don't get too close. Yamato yelled as he went through some hand signs and would burst from the ground and wrapped around Naruto's tail, but it was too late. His tail had already made contact with Sakura and tossed her to the side. Sakura slowly got up, holding her arm as she watched the wood wrap around him, pinning him to the ground, and Yamato jumped at him, pressing his hand to Naruto's chest. Yamato then jumped away as 10 pillars came up from the ground and wrapped around the demonic fox. As Naruto was pinned to the ground, the demonic chakra began to recede, and he began to return to his human form. Once he was back to his normal human form, the pillars retracted back into the ground. Sakura forced herself to stand and began to walk over to him and dropped to her knees next to him. She looked over him and saw most of his skin had been burned off, and it was slowly healing itself. She put her hand on his chest and began to heal him, and she watched as his skin quickly healed itself. After he was completely healed, he opened his eyes. Once his eyes were open, he sat up looking at the destruction, then over to Sakura, and he looked down to her arm that was bleeding. I'm sorry, he said, getting her to look at him in a bit of shock. For what? She asked. For that, he said, pointing at her arm. Oh, this wasn't you, it was Orochimaru that did this, she said, trying to play it off. Don't lie to me, I know those chakra burns anywhere, and he was too preoccupied dealing with me than to even give you a second thought, Naruto said as she put her hand to it and began to heal it as her head dropped a bit. I just didn't want you to blame yourself for something you had no control of, Sakura said. But I let go of the control. I shouldn't have let that happen in the first place, he said as he stood up and walked over to Yamato. Where is Sai? He said, looking around as he noticed the pale boy was not there. I don't know, I lost track of him once the fighting started, Sakura said as she finished healing herself and stood up. Shit, he must have gone after Sasuke without us. Naruto sighed as he turned toward the bridge. You coming? Naruto asked, looking over his shoulder at her as she smiled and jumped up next to him and the jump to the far side of the canyon. After a little while of searching, they finally came across the entrance of the underground base. They quickly made their way inside and began their search. Shortly after they began, they heard an explosion and began to run toward it. Sakura was in the lead when she saw a light and burst through it to find herself in the middle of a crater. She looked around and saw Sai buried under some rubble. She then looked up and saw Sasuke standing at the top edge of the crater with a sword in the back of his purple sash. I should have known it was you guys that came after me, Sasuke sighed as he looked at his old team. So this is my replacement, he said, glancing over at Sai, who was still buried. Sasuke, please come home with us, Sakura said. Why should I? I have more power now than I could have possibly have hoped for if I had stayed with the village, Sasuke replied, uninterested. Because I love you, she said hesitantly. Aha, Sasuke laughed, silly girl, he said as he vanished and appeared mere inches from her. You don't even know what love is, he said with a smirk as she saw the flash of his sword and it coming towards her neck. She shut her eyes and felt a slight bit of pain and something warm splash across her face. She gave it a moment, but didn't feel anything else, so she opened her eyes and saw his blade was pressed against her neck, cutting only a little bit into her neck as a small trail of blood slid down her neck. She then saw his hand was covered in blood and a chain piercing his wrist. She followed the chain and saw Naruto holding on to the other end of it. You know, it's not very polite to kill a teammate, Naruto said as he pulled on the chain, forcing his blade away from her neck. Ah, the dobe here to save his little girlfriend? Sasuke said with a smirk, looking at him with his Sharingan. Huh, girlfriend? Naruto chuckled, pleased that ship has sailed and it would never work anyway. Sakura heard this from him, and for some reason pain shot through her chest, but she didn't know why. Oh, so you finally realized how annoying she is? Sasuke replied. You could say that. Naruto replied, getting the pain in her chest to hurt even more. Then why not dispose of her already? Sasuke asked. Because she is my teammate. Naruto replied, getting Sakura to look up at him. No matter how badly they hurt you, you still have their backs when the time comes. You need to let them see the errors of their ways and atone for them. He said as a look of hope sparked in Sakura's eyes, and that is what I'm going to do to you. Beat your ass to a pulp, drag you back to the leaf, and show you the errors of your ways. Oh, such the noble hero. Sasuke said with spite, I regret nothing and have nothing to atone for. He said as he looked Naruto right in the eye and entered his mind. Naruto's mindscape. Sasuke found himself in what seemed to be a sewer system that was slightly flooded and lined with pipes. He began to walk through them as if guided by some unseen force. Soon he came to an opening in a giant cage with a seal on the lock and Naruto leaning on the center of it. So you've come to find the secret that the village elders have wanted to bury, Naruto said as Sasuke looked around. So what is this place? Sasuke asked. This, Naruto asked, cocking eyebrow. This is the burden I've carried my whole life, he said as the silhouette of a massive creature faded into view. What have we here? The shadowy figure said as his face came up the bars to reveal the face of a giant fox. Also, you carry the nine-tailed fox, Sasuke stated more than asked. This is where you get all that power from. More like a curse than anything else, Naruto replied. Shut it, you ungrateful kid. If it wasn't for me, you would have died years ago, the fox said. Taking your strength from this fox, you have no true power, Sasuke smirked. Could say the same about you and that curse mark of yours, Naruto shot back, wiping the smirk from Sasuke's face. Now get out of my head. You don't have the strength to push me out, Sasuke said with a smirk. I will stay here as long as I please and learn all your secrets to defeat you. Know you have found the one secret I was will to share, Naruto said, and I have been keeping the most powerful tailed beast at bay since I was born. You are nothing compared to him, he said as everything faded away. Outside mindscape. Sasuke fell to a knee, holding the side of his face, covering an eye. How did you do that? Sasuke asked. I already told you, Naruto replied. You are nothing compared to him. I will end you here, and Sasuke began but was cut off by another voice. Kukukaku, Orochimaru snickered. Come Sasuke-kun, we will deal with these little whelps at another time. At this, Sasuke jumped away, landing next to his master. Very well, Sasuke said as they faded away. Till next time, dope. Till next time, team, Naruto replied.